Well, hello again. This is Topics of Light from FWCC here in Las Vegas, and I'm excited to have Amber with us today. You want to say hello to everybody, Amber?
Hi, welcome. We're glad that you're here with us today.
It is a blessing. It's a blessing to be able to come to you from Las Vegas, and I don't know where all you're tuning from, but hey, if you'd like to, when you watch, you can just inbox us or something and let us know where you're watching from. That would be great fun for us because we're excited about being able to do this. So we're on a series called What We Want People to Know About Jesus. The things that we want him to know, want others to know. The first thing we talked about was commitment, his commitment. He was so committed to us, and we sure could have gone into a lot more depth, but he was so committed. Today we want to talk about his unselfishness. He's the most unselfish person that walked this earth. When Jesus walked this earth, he did not walk it with self in mind. Would you agree?
Yes, completely, because even when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, when he was a child, of course, he's always about his father's business, but when he was in the garden, he could have chosen, to not go through with the crucifixion because he knew what was going to happen and how intense it was. But he chose, not my will, but your will be done. He knew the Father's heart, and he had a love for the people, and he knew that would be the only way we could get to heaven is through his death. And so he was not selfish at all. He knew many things, and he could see ahead because the Father would show him, but he died for the world, and he gave his life for us, and there was never selfishness with him. He was never about himself. He was never there for people to say, oh, look, there's Jesus. Many times people would get healed, and he would say, don't tell them who did this, because he wanted them to have their eyes on God, and he's the Son of God, and he was just amazing.
Yeah, when you think about all the things that you read about him, like you just recapped, all his unselfishness, and he died an unselfish death. You'd mentioned the Garden of Gethsemane. He asked his friends to pray for him, not that he would be rescued out of there, because as he said, he could have called down 12 legions of angels to help him, and they would have gotten him out. What was even more unselfish of him, he could have gotten out at any time. They didn't hold him. Even the nails did not hold him, so to speak, to the cross. How do you deal with 12 legions of angels? Thousands and thousands of angels know his love and commitment and unselfishness. His will to follow the Father held him to the cross for you and I and for everyone. And his friends, he asked his friends to help him, and they fell asleep,
Yeah. And he's like, pray with me, and everybody's...
Yeah, and you might say, wow, what kind of friends did Jesus have? And then I think when I'm called to pray sometimes I fall asleep.
Yeah, I do too, yeah. And then I wake up, I'm sorry, Lord.
Right, and he knows that about us, but he just so unselfish. And then when you had mentioned when after the Garden of Gethsemane, when his captors met him, because remember Judas betrayed him, sold him out, told the soldiers where to find him, and then when the soldiers went to capture him, it wasn't like they had to search him out and pull him out because he was hiding in a cave or hiding behind a rock. No, he walked right up to them, gave himself to his captors, and basically said, here I am. And when he said that, they fell back by the power. But I think of this, that he loved them all so much that it was almost like he was telling his captors, I'm here for you too, right?
Yeah.
I'm here for you too.
Well, because even on the cross, after he went through, it's like torture, what he went through for us. and he took everything bad, but even while he was on the cross, he said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do."
Right.
And even then, after everything that he went through, he still was saying, "God, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know who I am. They don't know. They're blinded." And, he laid down his life for us, and he chose that. And he even took one of the men at the cross with him. He took, was it Barabbas? I always say his name wrong.
No, but it
He
was
took
one of
his
the
place.
thieves. Yeah. Oh, yeah,
he
he
was
did.
a thief
Yep.
and a murderer, and
Right.
he took his place because they were going to crucify him, but then they voted for Jesus to be
Yeah,
crucified.
that was Barabbas. You're right.
Yeah, Barabbas.
Yeah.
And then on the cross, the thief was asking him about paradise, about heaven, and then he told him, "Well, you're going to come with me," because he believed.
Right.
And so he just, that's unselfish right there, because he's not saying, "Well, what about me? I don't deserve this." Because sometimes I go through that where, you just go through a lot and you feel overwhelmed and you're like, "Why are they being so mean to me? I don't deserve this." And then I'm like, "Wait a minute, I have no right to say anything but pray for them, because look what Jesus took," which no man could do that. No man, only the Son of God could handle all of that. And he took everything bad that we could, all the curse, he took everything bad for us so that we would not have to endure that.
No. Which in itself, taking all the sin of the world on his body in the cross, where it said the Father turned from him because
Yeah,
he
he
couldn't
felt
look on him.
separated
Yeah, he couldn't look upon that because, and so we see all that. But even another part of that is remember when Peter, when they were going to take Jesus, and Peter "No, you won't. He's going to protect Jesus." He didn't quite understand it all. We don't always understand it all.
Yeah.
And so he cut off the ear of one of the captors, right? It's like, "No, you don't." He cut off the ear, and Jesus said,
He still showed
"No,
that.
Peter." He still showed his unselfish act by healing the ear of one of the captors. Is again like he's saying, "I'm your healer. I'm your deliverer. I'm the one that is here for you. You came to capture me, but I came here for you." And he showed Peter and all the other disciples that unselfish love.
Yeah.
And I love that because he shows us every day, and we get into the Word, how we're to live. That there's a saying to pick up our cross and follow him. Like, lay down your selfish way of living.
Yeah.
And pick up your cross and follow him. Amber, share that and how you walk that out in your personal life as endeavoring to follow Jesus and be unselfish to the people around you.
Well, it all starts out with prayer, having your relationship with God, and then being in his word so that you can be sensitive to the Holy Spirit in you. But for me, there's choices all the time I have to make, and a lot of times I'm like, I don't want to make any choices, but then the Holy Spirit helps me because I ask him, "Okay, God, just put me in the right place at the right time. I know you, Holy Spirit. I know what to do. You're in me. Give me wisdom," because we have things come at us all day long. And with the Holy Spirit, he can show us where to be, what to say, when to walk away, when to say something, how to handle something, all different things. But just knowing we're separated from the world. We don't have to be like the world. And so picking up my cross, I just think, okay, I'm going to follow Jesus. He is our example, and we're to live as he lived, and we need his help to do that. And praying in the Spirit helps us also to stay sensitive with him. Praying in tongues, it silences our mind and helps us to hear him clearly, and it's not always a voice that I hear. I'm led by the Spirit of God. So if I have peace about something, or he whispers in my spirit, "Go to Walmart," and he had me do that before, and there was a lady there he wanted me to pray for. we need to be sensitive to those things, because every day we have assignments. Sometimes it's to be set apart. I mean, it's always to be set apart, but sometimes it's to, be at home and praying and interceding, and sometimes he'll have you to go to specific places for specific people. And when you abide in him and he abides in you, then there's fruit that abounds. And you may not see it right away because there's seeds being planted.
Right, and it's these divine connections, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember a movie that we watched. It was called End of the Spear. Did you ever see that movie?
No, I never saw it.
It was about missionaries that were over in Ecuador, I believe it was. It was a different country, and they were among natives that were not, they hadn't been taught or trained, and they sure didn't know anything about the Lord. And there was, one of them was a pilot, and he had a yellow plane, and he would fly it, and they would drop gifts down to this community or colony of native individuals. Well, the man had a little boy, and the little boy was very, very concerned that the father would be in danger when he went. And so they made some progress. They had dropped some gifts, and now they were going to land, and they were going to go in to that community, and they were going to start telling them about Jesus and helping this community. And so the little boy said to his father before he went, he first learned what word he could teach his father, that if they advanced on him, because they were a very aggressive tribe, known to kill people. And so he wanted him to learn this statement in their language, basically, that said, I'm your friend, I'm friendly.
Aww.
And so the father learned it and everything, and he said, Dad, there was this little scene in the movie where the son asked his dad, if they come at you, will you defend yourself? Will you defend yourself? If they come at you with the end of the spear, will you defend yourself? And he so sweetly told his son, he said, no, son, they're not ready to meet Jesus. I'm ready to meet Jesus, but they're not ready to meet him. And the story goes on that he gave his life at the end of a spear of a man that did kill him. But it's so beautiful, and I won't tell you the rest of the story because it's called End of the Spear. I don't want to wreck it for anybody. But it's beautiful what God did through that. But in this case, this missionary, this father, gave his life for a group of people that did not know Jesus, and how God infiltrated that through the whole thing. It's one of the most beautiful true stories I've ever heard, and it's called End of the Spear. And it talks about that unselfishness that he had.
Yeah.
Because had he defended himself, they would have been catapulted to hell.
Yeah, they
for
would
eternity.
not be in a good place.
For eternity. And so when we receive Jesus, our lives change. We, by the Spirit of God, have his very nature in us, and we can choose to let that out just like that, just like you do, just like when you get led to go to Walmart and pray for somebody, or tell somebody if someone's angry at us and they're just mean-spirited, and the Spirit of God rises up in us and says, no, return a kind word for a mean-spirited word, and so forth. So Jesus died to self to live for us. So the secret that we find is in living is dying to self.
To self, yeah.
Dying to your will.
Mm-hmm.
Putting your will down to follow his will every day and every way. It's kind of like when your coworkers gossip about you.
Pray for them.
Yep. How about when your advice is disregarded?
Yeah. Well, obedience is the key, as long as I'm saying what the Lord wants me to say to them, it's up to them whether or not they receive it. And sometimes right in front of us, you think, okay, why did I even say anything? Because it just stirred up all this. But really, I mean, if God's telling us to say something to them and we don't say it, then, you know, our hands are tied, or their blood is on our hands, you know.
True.
Because how will they know Jesus if we are not obeying the Holy Spirit
Right.
to do what He's asking us to say or do?
Or drawn closer to the Lord. You know, if they're angry and they come out with us in anger and we meet them back with anger, right?
Yeah.
Or if they
that doesn't
ridicule
work.
us or make fun of us and we make fun of them or ridicule them or talk about them, there's no difference, right? And I know it's a flesh burn. We've been there, done that.
Yeah.
I've been on both
Yeah,
sides
I've
of
done
it,
it.
right? And you know it's a flesh burn. It burns you. You know, it's like, oh, right?
But then when you are nice to them and the fruit of the Spirit's coming out of you, they're like, wait, why are you being nice to me, you know?
Right, I was
can't
being this,
figure it
this,
out.
and this. No, because they see past us and they see Him. And that's what we
And
want.
that's what we want.
We want people to see Him in us and through us. They can see flesh all day long.
Yeah.
They don't have to see our flesh, right? They can see feelings go sideways all day long. But when we bring Jesus into the picture and they get to see Him, now that speaks, right? So today, thank you so much for joining us. We're so blessed to be able to bring more into your home and into your life about Jesus and what we want people to know, that He was so unselfish, that when we live unselfish lives, we show Him. We show forth Him. So be blessed today. We hope this encouraged you, and we'll see you again. For now, we say bye-bye.